Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is Patron Hangout number 225. And if it looks like I'm in Maryland because I have my usual backdrop, well, I took a picture of what is behind me usually when I do my Hangouts, and this is now a green screen. So you can't even tell I'm not in Maryland. Isn't that kind of weird? But this is what it really looks like behind me. Hold on a second. Let me find it. Yeah, this is what really is behind me. This is my Hawaii studio. This is the room I rented, and you can see that my carry-on suitcase is really useful because it raised up my my laptop high enough, and I also was able to stick the microphone in the handle, so that worked out really well. And what you don't see beside me right now is a rolling chair with a trash can on top of it, so that I can get my iPad at least high enough to try to see. So, and I have my lights positioned in different places. So it's quite tricky, but it seems to have worked out well. So I'm not unhappy with that. So, yeah, it's all going good. So, hello everybody who's in the chat room. Hi Clarissa. Hi Farming Felicity. Lisa. Wait a minute. TKM says, I was expecting a beautiful Hawaiian sunset in the background. Yeah, if I could figure out how to get decent internet sitting on the beach, I guess I could do that. But I'll show you. I'll show you some pretty pictures. But no, I'm going to be doing my hangouts here in the room. Much more controllable circumstances. Not one of those people does well with just a phone, unless I absolutely have to. Lady Jane is here, and Allison is here, and who else is in the room? For Christoph is here. And Rose is here. Taylor's here. And who did I miss? Salty Fish is here. I'm trying to go back now because I missed everybody because I was having issues trying to set things up just before the show. Things weren't working. Mincy's here. And if I didn't say hello to you, Cecilia's here. If I didn't say hello to you, sorry. I just can't find you in all the names here. I think Tonya, Lady Jane. I already said Lady Jane. All right. So anyway. Welcome, all of you patrons, and if you would like to be in the chat room during my live shows, for the most part, my live shows are patron only, and there's a link below for Patreon. It's $5 a month. Supports this educational channel, and there are 2 shows a week: a hangout like this, and the case show on the weekends. And so there's 8 a month, and yeah, and we have a nice community, so that's why I like to do patron only live shows. But after the shows are finished, they do become public. So please do subscribe to the channel. All of my videos are public, so there's nothing hidden. The point of supporting me this way is that you can come to the live shows and have a community. But you'll still see all of the videos if you subscribe to the channel. Even if you don't, come on, subscribe to the channel. It helps. And click the bell for notifications. That's very important as well. Alrighty, now let me go back to my room. Where's my room? There it is. I feel like I'm at home now. It's really weird. It's like an illusion, that I'm someplace that I'm not. But yeah, I'm not there. I am in Hawaii. So I have been here for a week now. And let's see. Oh. Have you ever flown first class on a plane? Yeah, first class is way better than steerage. It is. So much better way to travel. By the way, I just want to say, one of the things I'm going to do a show on my other channel, Dear Profiler Pat, on travel. Somebody said they were like scared for me because I flew into a place for 3 months. I rented a room on the internet through Airbnb. Have no clue what I was getting into, and I did my best to determine where I should be. And I have lucked out. My room is bigger than I thought it would be. My studio is set up. I can set it up here. I have a private bath, and outside of my room, there's this little lovely place that right there. There's actually I'm behind that right piece of wood. This little alleyway there. My house, my room is like a separate little house. And then on the other side, there's like 11 rooms. I had no idea that many people here. But last night, the woman that owns the place, she brought us a bottle of Merlot and snacks, and we all sat in those chairs. And I met these lovely people from Denmark who were just returning, and there's another fellow there from Essex, England, and he and I actually went and played. We went and played pool across the street, and had a great time. And so, I'm meeting people just in the complex I'm in. So how cool is that? One of the advantages sometimes about being in a place where you're not so isolated, where you're not going to see anybody, is that people come and go in places where it's more of almost like well, I wouldn't call it a hostel because we have separate rooms and all that. And I have my own separate room and bath, but there's enough people coming and going that you start getting to know people, and they hang out and they eat there, and then you make friends, and it's quite cool. So everything is, I've landed well in Hawaii, and I love my location. I can walk to everything. I can walk just down the street to a place called Don Quixote, which is actually a Japanese supermarket, and it's open 24 hours. Crazy place. And there's also a Korean supermarket, which is at the end of my block, and there's like food all around me. I can walk 10 minutes. I'm at the largest outdoor mall in America. It's the Ala Moana Mall. It's absolutely gorgeous. And the food courts are full of like the most wonderful food ever. And then if I go through the mall out the other side, I can go to Ala Moana Beach Park, and I can go to the beach. That's not to like. and so, I mean, crazy. So some of you have asked me to just show a few pictures before I start the show. And so I will, about the location I'm in. I'm not sure what this was my first meal sorry. This is my first meal when I got here. After I got off the plane, I found a Korean food truck. So there, I got pretty birdies, and you know my feral cat back home. Well, I met a feral cat here, and he hissed at me, and then he went down that drain. But back at home, by the way, I got a kitty camera, and this is during the day. It's just you can see it's just I don't know who put whatever that thing is on my chair, but okay. But here it is at night, and you can see my kitty is in his kitty bed. Isn't that cute? He's right there in his kitty bed. There he is, all curled up. And so I can watch him every night. I look at the camera to see if he's there, and he's either standing there eating at the bowl or he's in his kitty bed. So that makes me happy. I can keep an eye on him from afar. So that's pretty cool. And my granddaughter is taking care of. She's filling the food bowl in the water bowl. So yeah. What Mac called his cousins in Hawaii to keep an eye on you. Yeah, I found all these. There's a lot of like kitty cats running around the park. So I have been enjoying seeing those. Yeah. And Mac loves his kitty bed now. He's in it every single night. So, and he's probably happy I'm not there because he doesn't have to deal with the big beast, And let me show you a couple other pictures, and I'll get started with all the crime stuff. But my patrons, I'm showing this view. So I'm suffering here in Hawaii. Yeah, it's just terrible. And here's another pretty bird. And yeah, this is a canal. Beautiful, isn't that pretty? Oh, 7-Eleven is the best here. All on the left is spam, all kinds of versions of spam musubi. Then there's all kinds of sushi and rice dishes. You don't get this kind of 7-Eleven anyplace else. And then at the front counter, they got these things called manapuas. They're steamed buns with different things in them. Just love 7-Eleven in Hawaii, except for the homeless guy that was ODing outside. But little things. And and then they have the most magnificent trees. Isn't that cool? What is this picture? Oh, so people say, what do you do? You're in Hawaii. How do you get around and figure things out? Well, I wanted to find the table tennis club. So it turned out the table tennis club was in this building, and there was no sign outside. So I was running around like, do you know where the table tennis club is? And it turned out it was upstairs in this back of this kind of building. But there it is, a table tennis club. So I have a coach now. He's very nice. I've had 2 lessons with him, and he's great. So yeah, that's cool. And then some more pictures. This is Honolulu. I love the trees here. The trees just, oh my God, the most beautiful trees in the world. They're just fantastic. That's a mongoose. And there's a little mongoose. No squirrels in Hawaii, but they do have mongooses or mongoose. I don't know how you call them. And some more pretty pictures. I was walking down to this little beach I was going to. And to see this is Diamond Head, and this is a little beach. It's called Magic Island Lagoon, and it's like flat water. They have they stop the waves from coming in, and you just wander into the water and just lay in it. It's lovely. It's really nice. Yeah, it's just great. So anyway, there's from the lagoon. You can even see Diamond Head from the lagoon. It's just beautiful. And let's see one more picture. Oh, what picture is this? Oh, I don't know what picture that is. This one makes me laugh just because I was going to a different place last night and took a bus I hadn't been on, and this is a great view from a bus window. I don't get this view in Maryland from a bus window, so I think it's pretty cool. Anyway, that's the travel extravaganza for today. All right, so yeah, I'm suffering in Hawaii, just suffering. But that's why I came here, because I just don't like the dark and winter in Maryland, and I decided I'm just going to do my winter here, and so far so good. And yet, people said, "Oh my God, I'm saying, how do you get around? I'm scared for you. How do you figure things out?" And I'm going to do a show on that today on my other channel, Dear Profiler Pat, about being scared when you travel. Why are you scared when you travel? How do you not freak out when you travel? And I've traveled a lot, so I tend not to freak out because I've learned all the tricks. And so I'm going to share those with on the Dear Profiler Pat channel, which I'll put out this afternoon. So yeah. So, oh, you're looking for a holiday too? I think I need to look beyond Europe. Okay, when you win the lottery, yeah, don't wait that long. Just find there are cheaper ways to do things than like in my room here. If you stayed at the Hilton, it's $400 a night here. I'm not staying at the Hilton, and I don't even want to stay at the Hilton. And here I have a much nicer place. I think kind of feels like home in a way. And the amenities are good enough. I'm not an overly picky person, so I don't get bent out of shape about the small things. So yeah, I'm really happy. And it turns out the lady told me that they have business internet here, which is why my internet's been so good. I had no idea. I'm like, oh, thank God I don't have to go search out. Like, I don't have to have buffering and then go find a studio I can, go at. So cool. So yeah, it's just you were confused. Yeah, it's my fake backdrop. I'm in Maryland. No, yeah, I'm not. But yeah, I do Airbnb and stay with locals. It's nice because you get to meet people. If I weren't here, I wouldn't have met anybody. But already, I've the owner. She's lovely, Juliana, and we were actually supposed to go out to have shabu shabu Japanese lunch yesterday with her. She and a friend, and she had an accident, so she couldn't go. So we'll reschedule, but then she came back later on with her cast. Well, she had a cast like bandage around her arm, and then she brought the bottle of Merlot, and then we all hung out, and it was great. And I mean, it's like, you don't get that staying in a $400 hotel. You're pretty much alone. So there's real advantages in being in places that are a little bit more social, and so that's why I'm here. All right, let's get to the actual information. No, not necessarily. Traveling alone can be difficult. Obviously, when you have somebody with you, you can go do things together. You can take a walk together. You can go to the beach together. You can go to touristy things together. No, I think it's easier with another person, but I don't have that other person. So I have traveled alone a bit, but I prefer to be with people traveling. So I do. But if I can't have people with me, it's nice to be in a place where I can meet people and at least, have some conversations. So it's fun. Sometimes sit there and eat, and then somebody comes in. I met a girl from Switzerland. She was really cool. And she told me she came to Hawaii to study English, which I thought was really weird because if you walk around the streets here, you hear Korean, Filipino, Chinese, Japanese, and you hear Hawaiian pidgin. I'm like, it's kind of weird. I hope your classes are really good because everybody else around here is not speaking the kind of English that is standard English, So I thought that was kind of funny, but yeah. So it's all cool. So anyway, I'll join you if I pay. Let me think about that. All right, let's get to the news. All right, so first I want to talk about is Reiner. I have to talk about good old Nick Reiner. Anyway, Nick Reiner, his lawyer has quit on him, which kind of makes me laugh. So Alan Jack, okay, where's my picture of it? Here it is. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so Alan Jackson, is it Alan? Oh, sorry, forget it. He's the one who was the Karen Reed attorney. Obviously, excellent defense attorney. I'd hire him if I were guilty. And but he is no longer going to be a Nick's attorney, and he now has a public defender. And there's a bit of confusion as to why he's left. And some people, hold on, I'm working off a trash can here. It's hard to see I can't see. I gotta get a taller trash can or something to hold this stuff. So, because I want to find my, all right, this is one says that he withdrew to a conflict of interest. Suppose he might be working with somebody else who's something connected to the family. Get out of here. No, he only left for two reasons. One, that he wasn't going to get paid. And what I've heard is that the family has withdrawn, the siblings have withdrawn support from Nick, didn't show up at his hearing. Maybe they're just not paying for the fancy lawyer anymore. But he doesn't really want to work for free unless it's really good publicity. And that's the second thing. Quite frankly, Nick Reiner isn't exactly the most lovable character. Now, people believe Karen Reed because of all the stuff on the internet, that she was innocent, was being framed by a big conspiracy theory by all of the police and governmental people of the area in Massachusetts. But Reiner doesn't have that going for him. All he is he clearly did it. So it's either an insanity defense or not. And he's not likable. So when you're representing a very unlikable creature, it doesn't necessarily do a lot for your career, especially if you're not being paid a crap load of money. And so if he's not being paid the money, he's like, yeah, okay, I'm out of here. That's what I think happened. As far as the siblings, maybe starting to understand what they maybe are dealing with. I did originally, my first video I did on the case was when parents don't recognize psychopathy. And this was a very popular video, and to talk about how a family can go through years and years and years. And we're talking, Nick Reiner's in his 30s, not recognizing what they're dealing with. And then I did another video, how to set boundaries with narcissists, psychopaths, and addicts. And I shouted out to the siblings. It's like, you don't have to support him. You need to just cut that relationship. And I did this other one recently on my other channel, Dear Profile Pat. Should I give up on an adult child who is horrible to me? And one of the things people have problems with is giving up on somebody they've known all of their lives. You've grown up with their sister, you've grown up with your parents, you've had a child you raised, your little baby and the happy little toddler they were, and then they're a horrible little creature when they're 30, and the tie is very strong, and it's very hard to cut that tie. But when a person is abusive toward you, the important thing is to understand is that they don't feel that tie the way you feel that tie. You're, as I said about psychopaths often, you're either useful or in the way. They will suck up to you. They'll be pleasant to you. They'll be all nicey with you as long as they're getting something from you. But they could care less about you and what happens to you. And so what happens is you're getting confused over what kind of person they are, and you're still thinking, oh my gosh, there's hope for us to have this great relationship, and we're still connected by blood or by whatever. No, you're not really connected. You just imagine you're connected. So I don't know whether the siblings saw my video or they just finally figured it out on their own that, hey, maybe Nick isn't somebody we should support. After all, he abused us in the worst way possible. He killed our parents. He killed our parents. I mean, you might forgive him for stealing some money for drugs, but killing Your parents, maybe you shouldn't forgive them. That's just kind of a little bit too much. And so maybe they finally realized we got to let this guy go. I hope so, because when he goes to prison or when he goes to the mental institution, wherever he ends up, he will undoubtedly contact them and try to use them for everything that he wants. It could be anything from cigarettes to money for buying whatever, or just using them in all kinds of ways. But he's never going to care about them, and they need to know that. So they need to just let him go. Let me check some of your comments on all Nick Reiner. You watch both shows, right? And then you haven't seen the last one. That's on the other channel, Dear Profiler Pat, which is linked below if you haven't been to that channel yet. No, he didn't prosecute him. He was his defense attorney. And again, here was a guilty guy he had no problem defending. He's a defense attorney. So some people say, well, everybody deserves a lawyer, and defense attorneys will say, I'm an ethical person, and I just give them what our law requires, that they have a right to an attorney and a right to good representation. That is true. But I've always wondered about a lot of defense attorneys, how they look past a lot of the things they are willing to look past. I think that a lot of them are very ethically challenged. Some, and not all of you defense attorneys, but some of the defense attorneys I've met in the TV world who do some of these big cases, I will say they're highly ethically challenged. They probably have personality disorders because they don't care that this person did this horrible crime. And what's sadder to me is that they help. And I've had this experience before. People don't understand how this works. I've had defense attorneys call me and want me to profile a case and get their client an alternative scenario to what the client's been charged with and maybe convicted, because now I'm coming for the appeal. And I look at the case, I'm like, your client's guilty as hell. And they're like, okay, yeah, but what other story can you come up with? What other scenario could it have been a serial killer? No, your client did it. They will create lies. They will look for any way to destroy witnesses. Doesn't matter how horrible it is that they do that to the witnesses. They will do the most incredibly nasty stuff in order to get their client off. They will pay experts ridiculous amounts of money to see it their way, not tell the truth, but see it their way. So they're very ethically challenged, because I think it's fine to represent the client for the evidence that exists. That's fine. But when you start playing these games, when you start going to the media and trying to manipulate all of the jury and all that stuff, you might be a psychopath, Mr. Defense Attorney. So, yeah. So that's. I'm glad that at least I'm glad that he's just he's not representing him, because he's a good attorney. There's no question about that. You watch the Diddy Netflix, Anna says, and it's accurate. Money buys. The defense keeps you out of the courts. That's absolutely true. In the Diddy case, I do think they overcharged him. They were trying to get him on stuff that they just didn't have the evidence for. And that's why he got convicted of the one thing he was guilty of, which was hiring prostitutes and bringing them across state lines. He's a scumbag, but hey, you can't go to prison for being a scumbag. You go to prison for breaking the law. And they really just overcharged him. And but it did help having a good attorney. That's for sure. Let me see what you say here. Taylor says, it's a paradoxical time because there's such a trend in the mental health community with going, quote, no contact with family, even frivolously. Yet in sincere and severe cases, it's more of a struggle. I think the issue of helping family members, supporting family members, and when you get into mental health community, and especially if you have a therapist who's working with a client, they're looking for support from the client. It's just one of these very emotional things that you want a person to get healthy. So if you can support them to get healthy, that would be great. But if you're supporting them just so they can abuse you and manipulate you, then you shouldn't be doing it. But that's the issue about recognizing whether this person is just a person with some issues or this person is just a psychopath. Because when you get a psychopath, you're not going to win. You're not going to win. You're just going to keep getting used, so that will be the end way it ends up. All right, let's see. I want to just mention this girl just because it's super sad. So let me find this story here. Here we go. This was a young woman who went missing from her home, and they had this video of her, like they saw the last moments they saw her in her car or something. And her name is Camila Mendoza Olmos, and she was from Texas, San Antonio area. And one of the first things everybody says when they see her picture is what? I'm gonna just ask you guys, what's the first thing you think when you see her picture? Anybody? She's 19 years old. There you go. She's stunning. Yes. She's attractive. She looks sweet. So beautiful, pretty. I saw her picture and I'm like, oh my God, she should be in the movies. She should win, Miss America or what, Miss USA or whatever. I thought she was one of the most beautiful girls I've ever seen. And it goes to show you, beauty on the outside. She might have been beautiful on the inside too, but you always think that people who are really, really pretty would have no problems because they'd be popular. Everybody liked them. They feel good about themselves. I mean, if you're walking around and, you probably aren't going to win beauty contests. People make fun of you and all this stuff you go through as a teenager. Well, she was gorgeous. Absolutely stunningly gorgeous. She's the girl that can become the cheerleader. She can become the prom queen. You know what I mean? And you think, wow, that must be a smooth ride. You got everything going for you. Apparently not. Apparently not. She was reported missing by her family on Christmas Eve. Her body was found about 100 yards away near a landscaping company with a gun nearby, and they concluded she died by suicide. And so apparently she had some mental health problems in spite of her beauty. And I think she had a breakup. And unfortunately, some idiot in her family left a firearm around. And this drives me nuts. I'm a strong believer that you have the right to have a weapon to protect yourself. I do. So am I, my work, sometimes a location that was, just I want to make sure somebody's breaking into my house and I can't do anything about it. I have had a weapon. I don't have one in Hawaii, so no, I didn't bring one over here. Although I think I could have. Yeah, I could have, but I did not. And a lot is I just don't have a good. Well, I could do a place to lock it up. So anyway, but I didn't. But if you have a person in your if you own a weapon, I don't want to get into a big gun thing here, but the whole point just being, if you own a weapon, there's only two places it's ever supposed to be: in a locked up or on your person. Those are the two places. And we see over and over again people leaving weapons unattended in a drawer, not on a nightstand, on the top shelf, and just someplace. And it's bad enough that you leave that out when you have healthy people around you and no children and all that stuff. So let's say you leave the gun in a drawer next to your bed. You don't put it away every night and lock it up. I mean, you can take a gun out and put it next to you on the bed stand if you have some kind of threat. You can do that. But you have to make sure no kid can come into your room. But if let's say you're living alone and you want to protect yourself, that's fine. And theoretically, somebody can break into your house and steal the gun because it's not locked up. But then it's a stolen weapon, which is a different thing than simply a person accessing it who should not be accessing it. And I see over and over again, people have some kind of person with mental health problems. Mass murderers often get the guns that they use in the mass murders from their own parents. People commit suicide by getting guns that are laying around the house. You've got a child in the house. First of all, it should be locked up, period. End of discussion. I don't care. Secondly, if this person got a mental health problem, you absolutely don't want to leave any kind of weapon around. I've always believed that if somebody uses your weapon to commit a crime, which could be murder or suicide, you should go to prison. So in my opinion, this poor girl, she made a terrible choice, but whoever left that gun out should be in prison. That's my opinion. Automatic sentence. And it's very rarely done, even in mass murders. I think it's that one case, mass murder, where they did convict the parents of providing the weapon for the child. But I don't understand why this is something that's just not a normal thing. It's your responsibility. So your gun shouldn't be, unless your gun is literally stolen. If it ends up in the hands of somebody you know and they commit a crime, you should be going there as an accessory. That's my soapbox today. Because it's just so sad. Just so sad. Depression is an illness. You simply can't see it from the outside. True and not true. That's true and not true. First of all, again, you don't leave, if there's children in the house or anybody else who can access the gun, you simply don't leave it around. Well, for a good portion of people who have children with problems, they know they have problems. Nick Reiner was known to have a problem, and there's nothing hidden there. When you have a teenager who's showing signs, there are signs of depression. I'm not saying everyone, you can't catch every one of them. It's just that, but you can see changes in behavior, a level of unhappiness. Sometimes they do try to fake it and all that stuff, but still, some of these people, like the mass murderers, there were signs a mile wide. Oh, I didn't know you. Yeah, you did. First, so they try to excuse themselves later on for just basically providing an absolutely horrible household and not parenting their child properly. Now suicide is a little bit different because that's not quite the same thing as having a mass murder under your roof. But still, I've seen a lot of times when they will say later they had problems. They're saying right here, she had issues. Well, somebody knew that she had issues prior to this, and it's sad, that they left a gun around for her to do something with. You can't stop all suicide. I mean, people can just take a bathrobe tie and hang themselves in the closet, so you don't need a gun. But still, you can jump off a bridge. I mean, there's ways to do it that are very successful, but still, you don't leave guns around. So. Yeah, he was a wonderful boy. He only tortured 3 of his 4 hamsters. Yeah, sometimes actually, sadly, as amusing as that is actually often true. People will downplay behaviors and say, well, he's just a boy, or he's going through a phase. Certain phases don't include torturing animals. I mean, that's not a phase. That's a psychological problem. So, okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. Depression is often impossible to understand from the outside. No, no. I'm still going to correct you. I'm going to say sometimes depression is not recognized by the people around the person, just like they don't recognize psychopathy. They don't recognize it. A lot of times they don't know the behaviors or traits or symptoms because they're busy with their lives, and that's just not something they're paying attention to. Other times they are downplaying everything and ignoring things. I've seen people ignore some of the most obvious stuff. And you're like, whoa, you got to watch out for that kid. I'm seeing a 5-year-old going, well, that kid's going to grow up to be a mass murderer or a serial killer. And the parents are like, oh, he's a sweet boy. You're like, no, he's not a sweet boy. Don't you realize just try to stab that kid's eye out with a pencil? But sometimes they just downplay it because they either don't want to deal with it or they just think it'll go away. So it's like symptoms, physical symptoms when you have a physical illness. Some people, when it's really kind of sad, sometimes they'll say like, well, I didn't go to the doctor for like a year and a half. Now I'm not a big going to a doctor person. I just pretty much solve everything by myself. So it's coming from me. It's kind of funny that I would say that. I'm one of those people. I'll try to fix it myself. But I've read these things where people will say that they had these symptoms that just were nagging and wouldn't go away. And they just said, well, maybe I just pulled a muscle. Maybe I did this, and you could see that for a few weeks, but sometimes they just ignored it for a freaking year. And by the time they got into the doctor, they're 4th stage cancer. And of course, sometimes the doctors will ignore the symptoms too. You go into the doctor, you say, I got these symptoms. They say, you're just working too hard. And the person got 4th stage cancer. So it's not that things aren't there for the most part. It's that people don't recognize them and deal with them. And I think that's more of a thing. A chronic illness can be a invisible disability. It's not invisible. That's my point. If you have a chronic illness and it's disabling you, it's not invisible. It's just not being recognized by those people who would like to be recognized by, like the doc, So you got fibromyalgia and you go in, the doc just keeps telling you it's all in your head or something. That's just a crappy doctor. You get a second, third, fourth, fifth opinion, but if you can afford it these days. But we do weird things to ignore situations, because one of the problems is once you recognize it, you have to deal with it. And a lot of times you just don't have the energy to deal with it, or that you just feel like you can't deal with it. So you just don't recognize it. And that's our own bodies, our own minds, and everybody else's bodies and minds. So, yeah. Yes, people can hide illnesses, psychological stuff. They can hide depression and so on and so forth. But I do think there's evidences of it. Sometimes we don't know it's as severe as all that. When we start seeing some behaviors that are off, and then a lot of times we don't know what to do about it, especially if the person is an adult, because an adult has the right to make their own decisions. And you're like, well, they're going through some stuff, and it's tricky. It's just very, very tricky. But my whole point is, don't leave firearms around. This girl might be alive today. She didn't have a firearm. Yeah, she could have used it or something else, but still. But it does go to show you, just because you're pretty, beautiful, doesn't mean life is beautiful for you. It's conceptions that we have. There are people who have such severe disabilities. Maybe they're born with cerebral palsy, or they don't have any legs, or are missing a couple arms, and they grow up and they feel loved and they're happy, and they're struggling with things, but they have this support system that's amazing, and they could be happier than the most beautiful girl in the world. So, but it's just a real shame. It just is. Now I want to talk about the Dr. Death guy. Dr. Death is a French guy, and he just got imprisoned. Okay, Dr. Death, where are you here in my thing here? Where'd you go? Well, now I got to pick this up. I got to look closer. I've lost my Dr. Death. Where'd you go? Wow. Come back. Where'd he go? Crap. Oh, here we go. France's Dr. Death, jailed for life after poisoning 30 patients while working as an anesthetist. So, hold on a second. Oh, wait. Okay, so he just got jailed. He poisoned 30 patients, not 30 parents. A former anesthetist in France has been jailed for life after poisoning 30 patients, including 12 who died. He is a serial killer. I don't see the word serial killer here. Dude's a serial killer, okay? And I pointed out oftentimes that there's really two kinds of ways that you sort of see serial killers around. One is just to jump out of the bushes and rape and murder people, like kidnap people and rape and murder them. But then you get these ones who work in the nursing field, often females, but often men as well. It's almost a Munchausen syndrome type of thing, where they have that person who's in their total control, and then they can do things to them. Some women who have Munchausen syndrome by proxy kill their children one after the other. They're serial killers. But Munchausen syndrome by proxy is a way of serial homicide, or a serial torture. If they don't kill them, they abuse them. And then we have Lucy Leppi, who some people think is innocent, but okay, I don't. She knocked off a bunch of babies and was convicted of doing so. She's like that. She enjoyed the attention she got by working with these little helpless babies and I know NICU type babies, and then either she saved them or she didn't save them, but either way, she gets the attention for what's happening, and then she can go to the parents and feel, oh, so sorry, so sorry. So here we have a guy who does this. He was found guilty. His name is Frederick Pescier. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Found guilty of contaminating infusion bags with substances that caused cardiac arrest or hemorrhaging. His youngest victims included a 4-year-old child who survived after 2 cardiac arrests following routine tonsil surgery, while his oldest victim was age 89. The medical professional, once seen by colleagues as a star anesthetist, was first investigated in 2018 on suspicion of poisoning patients at 2 clinics between 2008 and 2017. It takes, whenever you're talking about these kind of medical deaths, murders, it's really hard to prove a lot of these things, and it's amazing how long they get away with it and often go from place to place to commit their crimes. And the first place doesn't want to tell the second place that they're suspicious of this guy. He was sentenced to at least 22 years in jail. That's what he gets? Oh, yeah. And 10 days, and has 10 days to launch an appeal. They call him one of the biggest criminals in the history of the French legal system. Yeah, he's a serial killer. Please use the word serial killer, but they aren't. So yeah, he did it in a lot of people. He's denied any wrongdoing. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm not a poisoner. I've always upheld the Hippocratic oath. Yeah. Well, I made them more comfortable. First, do no harm. I didn't harm them. I just made them more comfortable. Prosecutors called him Dr. Death, saying, you are Dr. Death, a poisoner, a murderer. You bring shame to all doctors. You have turned the clinic into a graveyard. Oh, finally, State Prosecutor Christine de Crez called him a serial killer and highly twisted. He is reported to have privileged upbringing as a son of an anesthetist himself. He is alleged to have poisoned victims in order to then pose as a hero by resuscitating them, according to state prosecutors. So there you go, Munchausen syndrome by proxy, where he's using other people to get this kind of attention. So as I pointed out, Munchausen syndrome is not a disease. Munchausen syndrome is the behavior of a psychopath, heavily female psychopaths. But this is an example of a male serial killer psychopath who exhibits Munchausen syndrome by proxy. So I thought that was a really interesting thing. And there's a bunch of different ones who are nurses. And I've also pointed out quite often that, oddly enough, there's this, especially the females, the nursing profession is the choice that they make often to be involved in. And I'm not sure exactly why that is. I don't know if it's been heavily studied why they would choose nursing. Maybe it's because they get the power over somebody who is helpless, and they love to have that power and control. That's their way of getting it as a female. And then, so when you see somebody who commits these kind of crimes, where have they worked? Have they worked in a nursing home on the midnight shift? How many people died over there? Got to be very careful about those kind of people. So, yeah, but that's, yes, I would say this nursing because it's easy access to the vulnerable. Absolutely. Again, power and control in a way. That's why the women kill their children as well. They birth them, they get all the attention. They kill them, they get all the attention, and they have access to somebody that they're easily able to kill. But, females, just generally speaking, aren't as strong as males. So males, and even male serial killers, they'll always pick more vulnerable victim. They don't go pick some, strong fella. My 2 sons have said, well, I didn't worry about being killed by a serial killer, generally speaking, because they're not small, wimpy looking dudes. Now, mind you, there are serial killers who will choose smaller men. And serial killers usually choose smaller women. They don't choose the woman who's been working out, with the weights and everything. And she's got, she's in a competition. No, the Amazonian woman, they don't pick them out. They pick out the 110, 5'5" girl, because she's easy to control. and they're going to win. You always want to win. You know, if you're going to be a serial killer, you want to win. You don't want to, you know, get knocked down by your victim. That's kind of embarrassing, you know. Harold, oh yeah, there we go. Harold Shipman is another one. Yep, he's another one. And I want to mention, if you remember, I just did this show on where is it? Where to go? Hello. I've lost it. Put it up here. Okay. I didn't. Okay. Murder in Monaco, the show that just came out on Netflix. So I just did the show about Ted Maher, Maher, never pronounced his name right. Ted. What profession was he in? Nursing profession. So he ended up wanting the attention by doing what he did in Monaco, taking care of Edmund Safra. And if you haven't seen my show yet, it's if you're a patron here, you can click on your link. But if you're not a patron, by the time you see this show, the other one will have already aired publicly, so you'll be able to see my analysis of Murder in Monaco. But Ted, nursing profession. So there is something, and it's one of these things where, on one hand, people go into nursing often are very kind people. They want to help people. They truly want to help people, especially people who cannot help themselves at the moment. They have that kindness in them to say, "Oh, this person's struggling, suffering, and I'm going to be there to help them." That's the main group that nursing draws. But there's that other fringe, and so it's like police work. Most people who join police want to help the community, want to stop crime, want to make things safer. And then you got the occasional psycho who wants to get the uniform and the gun. So every profession has that little fringe group that is attracted to that profession for all the wrong reasons, shall we say. And so, yeah. And then I want to mention this case. Yeah, here we go. What was this? Oh, hold on a second. Yeah. Oh, okay. I was wondering what that was. Okay. This case, Lisa Montgomery, she was just put to death. She got the death penalty, and they actually went through with it, which is rare that they do that with females, because people always feel sorry for females as they got emotional problems. Men have emotional problems too, but for less, it's like, oh, Ted Bundy, knock him off, Dr. Death, knock him off. Women, she had some kind of emotional issue. She had abuse when she was growing up. All right. So anyway, she was executed on death row, and they said she performed a defiant final act before death. She just said, I don't have anything to say. I don't know what defiant that was. But anyway, a female convicted murderer made a defiant gesture before she was executed after being incarcerated for killing a pregnant woman and kidnapping her baby. It's a horrific story. Lisa Montgomery, and so this is her, Lisa Montgomery. She strangled a pregnant woman in 2004 and took her unborn baby. And this is the woman that she killed. This is Bobby Jo Stinnett. This happened in 2004 in Missouri, and she strangled her. This woman who was her first child she was having. She was 8 months pregnant. She strangled her and cut the baby out of her stomach, out of her abdomen. So she confessed to the crime in 2007 and was sentenced to death, being the only female inmate on federal death row in the U.S. at the time of her execution. This actually happened 4 years ago because I just ran across it. She received a lethal injection at a prison in Terre Haute, Indiana in 2021 and lost a last-minute stay of execution. So anyway, she was 52 years old at the time. And so what happened basically with her? This is what her lawyers argued. They argued she was mentally ill after suffering serious abuse throughout her childhood. Okay, so this is a Menendez. That's a defense as well. Oh, we were abused, but we became adults, and then we went out and killed people. And said she should be spared execution due to the severity of her mental illness. What was the mental illness part? Psychopathy is what mental illness was. She claimed she'd been born with brain damage. They claimed she'd been born with brain damage. And then sexually and physically abused by her stepfather and trafficked by her mother, according to reports from family members. She tried to escape a turbulent home by getting married at the age of 18, but this marriage and her subsequent second marriage saw her yet to endure more abuse. Both husbands claimed that she lied about being pregnant several times, but she did give birth to 4 children of her own before being sterilized in 1990. I don't know what happened to those 4 children. Probably were removed from her custody, is what I'm guessing. And now she got sterilized. I don't know what got sterilized means, but okay, she had 4 kids, so it wasn't that she wasn't able to have a baby. It's that she had them and didn't. I don't have the information here whether she just didn't take care of them. Her defense team claimed that the violent treatment she endured throughout her life was tantamount to being tortured and believed that she was suffering from psychosis and out of touch with reality at the time she committed her crime. Oh, yes, because women are always out of touch with reality when they murder people, not men, but women. So let's see how this happened here. Montgomery had first befriended Stinnett online, with a pair bonding over the shared love of dogs. She then drove to Stinnett's house, where she overpowered her and strangled her with a piece of rope before cutting the baby out of her stomach. She was found cradling the newborn baby girl by police and initially claimed she had given birth to her the day before. And when they found out that was a lie, she confessed to murder and was found guilty. The one thing I thought, for some reason, hold on a second. Let me put in Lisa Montgomery. What was her I didn't know if her profession was nursing or not. I thought it was, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Lisa Montgomery. Let's see. Let's see if I can find out what she is doing. No, I can't find it. I don't know why I thought maybe she was involved in that. But she, let's see if I can find it here. It didn't appear she had a pretty terrible upbringing, and that's not surprising. But I'm trying to find out what happened to the other kids. Gave birth to 4 children. After her 4th child, her mother pressured her into having involuntary sterilization. Well, that's what she did. Okay. I don't know. It doesn't even seem like she ever worked. I'm not sure. But what they did was, the defense was talk about how horrible her childhood was. And again, this is a tricky thing. If we go by, no child deserves a horrible childhood. And yes, does it damage you as you're growing up? Absolutely. But still, you can't kill people, and she knew what she had suffered through, but had no problem strangling an innocent woman and taking her baby away from her, by cutting it out of her. That's psychopathy. And the claim that she didn't know what she was doing, she did know what she was doing. And this is not the first person who's done that. And I think, she committed murder, and she gave her victim the death penalty and took away her life and took away that nice woman from her family. So I don't have a great deal. I have sympathy for what she might have gone through growing up. They're serial killers. I feel bad for the way what they went through as toddlers, or sometimes they went through things that were difficult. But once they get to the point, just like Nick Reiner, when you get to the point where you're now an adult and you're abusive toward everybody else and commit homicide, well, whatever you were once that we might have cared about, kind of like maybe that ended. That's just the way I think about it. It's just they made their choices as an adult, and that's why we have laws that are in place that say no matter what, you can't do these things unless. And the thing is that the thing about whether you truly are in psychosis or not, because if you truly didn't know what you were doing because you truly had such brain damage or some kind of something going wrong where you weren't in your right mind. And people say, well, what person could be in their right mind if they kill somebody? Well, their mind, they might have the wrong attitude, the wrong general thinking, but they know what they're doing and they enjoy what they're doing. And they don't care. They have zero empathy toward the other person. That zero empathy is the psychopathy problem. And yeah, that's different than you have empathy toward other people. You care about people, but for some reason your brain goes into some weirdo place where you're hearing voices that are saying to do weird things, and you don't even know what you're doing. That's a whole different thing, and it's hard. It's rare. I mean, for the most part, most murders are committed by psychopaths, not by people who have psychosis. So, Pat. Plus, do we forgive our abusers and say, "Oh, it's okay. I understand you had a bad childhood"? Yeah, I mean, you can accept. I've often not loved the forgiveness thing. I'm kind of more into the acceptance thing. That I feel like even a parent who goes to visit with a serial killer and then says, "I forgive you for raping and murdering my daughter." I think it's not quite fair on the behalf of the daughter to forgive the guy who tortured her and killed her. I think you can say, "I accept that he's a psychopath. I accept that he's done a horrible thing, and there's nothing I can do about it. And whatever happens in his future after he leaves this planet, whatever religious beliefs you have, spiritual beliefs you have, I say that's where if there's forgiveness to be had after life, after death, then let it happen then, where I don't have to forgive somebody who abuses me. I can accept that they are messed up and they did a messed up thing." And people say, "Well, you forgive them so that you feel better yourself." I don't have to forgive somebody to feel better myself, but I can accept it. I can say, well, people have issues, and sometimes those issues are pretty terrible, and they affect you. But I don't. Forgiveness is for somebody who actually asks for forgiveness. This is the way I always thought about it. A person has to ask for forgiveness and then do something about what they've done. Now, if they've murdered your loved one, they're probably, say, psychopath. They might ask for forgiveness, but they're just doing it as a joke to get over on the parole board, and mess with you. But a person who truly, you do something, we've all probably done something stupid in our lives or in something insensitive, and we felt bad about it. We actually felt guilty. And so we went to that person and we said, "Well, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I feel bad about that. It was wrong of me." And then you make it up to them. And then you build give something back to them so you can rebuild the relationship and the trust. And that to me that's how you forgive somebody, is somebody that goes through those motions. But if somebody's just a scumbag who's done some horrific thing and abused the living hell out of you, Nick Reiner's killed his parents, I don't think the siblings have to forgive him. I think they have to accept that he was a highly damaged individual who was psychopathic, and put that barrier between him and say, "I'm going to go live my life as well as I can in remembrance of our parents, and go do everything I can for other people, and whatever they can build their lives, do the best, but they can leave him behind and let him deal with whatever forgiveness he might get, perhaps in the next life." That's just my theory on that. I would never forgive, but accept to be able to live my life. I think that is a much more rational way of looking at it. That's just my way. I know other people think differently, but that's just my take on it, because I think that's much easier to accept than it is to forgive, because most of the time when you're forgiving, you're really not. I just want to say that for a second. I want to say that people say, "I forgave." I don't think in their heart they really do. I mean, if somebody killed one of my children, forgiveness is, I could say that, but I don't, in my heart, nah. I think it's an attempt. It's an attempt to get peace. But I think acceptance is much more rational. I think you can get peace with acceptance because bad things happen in life. Bad things in general happen. We have, when we come into this life, it's an adventure of sorts, and we get good things and we get bad things. And if we can accept the great things that happen to us and be happy about them, but we all have to also accept some of the bad things that happen and to say, well, that sucked. That sucked. And I hope that, and if I did something to encourage the bad thing to happen, I've learned from my mistakes and I'll not do that again. And if it was through no fault of my own, I was walking, in the daytime, I was walking from the bus to my house and a guy jumps out of the bushes and rapes me. I don't have to forgive that guy. I can accept that that there's an evil psychopath in my neighborhood, and that's through no fault of my own because did nothing stupid, like nothing ridiculous to put myself in a bad position, and I got attacked. I mean, that's like lightning striking. Now, if I, on the other hand, got trash drunk and went walking through a dark alley at 3 a.m. in a dangerous area of town and I get attacked, that's still terrible, but I kind of put myself underneath a lightning strike, and I might learn from that. I might say, I accept that a horrible thing happened to me and it was an evil person who did it to me, but I also accept that I made some choices that weren't the greatest. So maybe I should make those choices again in the future. That's what acceptance can do, and rational thinking, as opposed to just tossing out forgiveness things. Wait a minute, I want to go back to the one I was going to. Okay, here we go. Christoph says, Pat, even without psychosis, someone who does something like that is sick. Either way, it's not normal. Even if she knows, of course it's not normal. I mean, this is the problem we have with the issue of psychopathy. If we say, okay, somebody's in psychosis and they don't know what they're doing, that's not normal. That's true. But they also don't know what they're doing. A psychopath knows what they're doing, but they do it anyway, even though they know it's horrible. And you say it's not normal for a person to do it. Of course not. But, and again, you can go back and say, well, they must have had something in their life that triggered the psychopathy. No question. We don't know why people become psychopaths. We don't. But what do we do with psychopaths? You cannot fix them. You cannot give them treatment. All you can do is say, if you break the law and you murder people, you go to prison the rest of your life, or you get the death penalty. That's the only thing we can do with them. Nothing more to do with them. We can accept they're not normal. There's a lot of not normal people in this whole universe, horrible not normal people. But what do you do? You can go back and try to ameliorate the reason there are not normal people, which comes down to family, community, having a good home, having a child come into the world by choice, not by accident, having a person love them from the minute they're born, having a situation where a mother can be with her baby and raise it, and you can go through all kinds of questions, fixing society so that we have wonderful homes and families and everybody has food on the table and war doesn't exist and all that kind of stuff. Welcome to the real world. It ain't like that. It just, it's, again, that's acceptance. I accept that the world isn't perfect. And I always hope, that I have more good things happen to me in this life by making the best choices I can. And I have less bad things happen to me by making less bad choices. But then there's those moments when lightning strikes you didn't do a damn thing to encourage it. And that's just bad luck. That sometimes I've seen people, they live the healthiest day, like my sister who got ALS. Of the three of us sisters, she lived the healthiest life. She never drank, no alcohol, no drugs. She ate very carefully. She was never overweight. She was a ballroom dancer. She got ALS. What the hell? What? I haven't lived that carefully. My weight has gone up and down. It's up right now. I don't do drugs, but yes, have I had alcohol? Yes. I don't get trash drunk. I'm not an alcoholic, but I've had that. I've had different kinds of diets where, yeah. She got ALS. She didn't do anything to deserve to get ALS. She got struck with lightning. Now, there's other people who eat very terribly, drink a lot of alcohol, and then suddenly they got liver damage. Well, they did do things that encouraged the bad luck, you know. So, but that's life. I mean, it's life. I don't know how to say it, but it's called a thing called life. I want to mention this. I was asked to talk about her. This girl has never been found. Her name is Tara Calico. She was 16 when she vanished, and the reason that people keep wondering about this particular crime is that she's never been found, but she disappeared in 1988 in New Mexico. She's widely believed to have been kidnapped. They supposedly saw her some vehicle following. She's out bicycling, never found the bike, and she just vanished. And there's two possibilities. One is she was kidnapped by a serial killer and murdered, raped and murdered right away, and her body just buried someplace that they just never found. The other possibility people think could happen is she was kidnapped into sex trafficking. And then the third possibility is there was some story that these guys were drunk and hit her and then freaked out that they had accidentally killed her, and then they buried her body and just never confessed. There was a picture. I was going to show the picture, but I probably end up getting demonetized for showing it, so I'm not going to. But it was a famous picture of a teenage girl and a young boy lying next to each. It looks like they're in a van of some sort, and they've got duct tape over their mouths, and their hands are behind their back, and they look scared. And that picture was found in Florida, on some floor, near some store. And so when they found that picture, people looked at it and thought, "Oh, it looks like this missing girl, Tara." And interestingly enough, it was just a Polaroid picture, and Scotland Yard analyzed the photo and concluded the woman was Calico. But a second analysis by the Los Alamos National Laboratory disagreed. An FBI analysis of the photo was inconclusive. A lot of people have looked at the pictures, and one of the things they noticed is that her eyebrows go up. They're very curved eyebrows, and the girl in the picture has very straight eyebrows, and that's just one of the things. So mostly the mother believed it was her, and because this is what often happens, you'll have people that will believe whenever they see a picture, somebody, "Oh, it's my kid." They want to believe it so badly they will come up with reasons why it has to be the kid. Just like I'm blanking. What's her name on the ship one? Somebody throw her name out for me, as I'm just going to sit here and blank. The woman who disappeared off the ship. Why am I blanking on her name? Somebody throw it out here for me. Thank you, Amy Bradley. I got the A right. I was like, Anne. No, Amy Bradley. Amy Bradley disappears from her ship. Then there's a picture of a woman in a brothel, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, that's Amy Bradley." There's no proof that was Amy Bradley. It didn't even look like Amy. It's not Amy Bradley. Amy Bradley died that night. She's not around. She wasn't kidnapped in the sex trade. It's ludicrous. Watch my show on that if you haven't seen it. But people, because they want to believe she's alive, especially her family and her brother, will keep saying she's alive out there someplace, even though it makes zero sense. But they want to believe it. And so the same thing is true with Tara. Family wants to believe and say, "Oh my God, that's her." And the little boy in the photograph, people thought was this little boy, Michael Henley. Well, what was interesting about this was Michael Henley goes to camping with his father, and fairly soon after they got there, he disappears. And they can't find him. And so they think, "Oh my God, see, is Michael Henley." Now, he also is from New Mexico. And these two kids end up in Florida somehow in the clutches of somebody, which would be not sex trafficking, in my opinion, be more likely some kind of a serial rapist, killer type guy. But again, people aren't kidnapped off the streets in the United States into sex trafficking. It's not the way it works. They are lured into it because they run away from home, because they're on drugs, because they think it's fun to make money. I mean, there's lots of reasons they get into sex trafficking, but it's not people. They're just not kidnapped off the streets. It's just not worth it for people who are trafficking, sex workers, people who are pimps and stuff like that. They can get girls without doing that. They can get boys without the kidnapping part. So if you can get them without doing the kidnapping, why would you kidnap when there's going to be big massive police all over the place? That's why Amy Bradley thing again. So you got a woman who disappears off a cruise ship. The last thing anybody wants is to kidnap her and then have an international incident. All they do is get a girl and say, "Oh, you need drugs? You want to work for me? We can make some money if you be a sex worker." They're like, "Okay." That's much easier. So that's why it doesn't work that way. In certain countries, there is where very poor people and sometimes not so poor people do get kidnapped, and because the issues of the police system and the way the whole sex trade works in other countries, it does happen. U.S. no, and so that these kids would both be, they were kidnapped. Well, it turns out that the boy that they saw in the photograph that they thought was this little boy, well, he turned up near the campsite eventually, and it was proven that he just died of exposure. So after they decided he was kidnapped and was over there in Florida, they found him back exactly where he went missing. So this. So I just want to point this out because this is where people, because they're wishing that the person was still alive, that they will fall for a lot of these things. Some of the photos nobody's ever figured out the photo. It could have been a staged thing for all we know. Could have been a joke. Could have been some creepy dude who, I don't know, could have been his own kids. I don't know. It's hard to say what it was. Could have been a real person who had kidnapped a couple of kids and they're dead someplace. I don't know. But they never figured that one out. But the boy didn't turn out to be the boy. I don't think is the girl. And she probably was, her body's probably somewhere in New Mexico. That's a more realistic way of looking at it. Wouldn't it be highly unusual for someone to target an 18-year-old girl and a younger male child? Yeah, it would be more likely that, well, if let's say an 18-year-old girl was walking her brother to the circus, and the serial killer saw the girl, wanted the girl, he might kidnap both of them and just kill rape the girl and kill both of them. I mean, that's possible, and that's been done before. Yeah. Oh, did you see Elvis? Yeah. People would still like him to be alive. It seems to happen relatively often that when somebody disappears, there's a lot of claimed sightings. Oh my God. It's a ridiculous amount of sightings. And the problem is a lot of people just look like a lot of people. They do. And if you're not real familiar with that person's every bit of their looks, somebody else can just look like them. And so, yes, when you have somebody going missing, you have hundreds of sightings of that person. And a lot of times the person's been dead before even the first sighting. That's what's kind of funny. It's like, no, it's no. But, and then the psychics come out of the woodwork and they add to all of it. And there's people who just want attention. There's some people good-hearted people who think they saw the person. Then there's those who want attention, and they will claim they saw them just to get the attention. They're Munchausen syndrome people. They'll just go, "Oh, look, I'm the one who saw the girl," and they'll make up stories even. It's just crazy. So, yeah. So, but yeah. Oh, and speaking of making up stories, let's look at the Ohio couple who, where are they? Oh, before I go to the Ohio couple, I just want to mention this. This guy, before the Reiners died, he supposedly got this email from them the day before, and he's so sad that that the Reiners have been killed because he was their buddy. He's on death row, and they became friends with him. And so this is a whole story about, let's see if I can find it here. Oh yeah, here we go. From the New York Post, death row inmate reveals heartbreaking email he received from Michelle Reiner the night before she and her husband Rob were killed. A death row inmate now received a heartbreaking email. They had, let's see. Rob and Michelle Reiner had attended a Los Angeles theater on December 12th to see Lyrics from a Lockdown, a one-man show about injustice and mass incarceration in the U.S. legal system based on the life and writings of Nanon Williams. That's the guy. Williams has been in prison for more than 3 decades and been sentenced to death for the murder he maintains he did not commit when he was a 17-year-old teenager. And they have big hearts, and they befriended him because they believe he's innocent. And so I'm going to do a separate show. Is he innocent? Yeah, he's got a huge amount of following. Has achieved a lot while he was in prison. As a lot of people do in prison because they can. He said that Michelle acted like a mother figure to him, and he is so, he's very upset about that. Of course, he's lost his support. So grand. I don't know how he got the wife Tara, somebody who likes to marry people in prison. But he was charged at 17 years old in 1992 and sentenced to death for killing of a 19-year-old Adonius Collier, who was shot to death at a park in Houston. He was ultimately convicted based largely on, quote, fail-safe ballistic evidence that Collier was shot by Williams, who admitted firing a gun, but not co-defendant Val Guevara, who also fired a gun in the fracas and had testified against him in exchange for a sweet plea deal. And then supposedly the evidence began to crumble, and the ballistic expert told that he had been wrong, and prosecutors in the courtroom still opposed his parole, admitted that Guevara was very evasive and apparently not at all truthful. That's the guy who said he did it. But is that the whole story? So I'm going to do a video on that. Because as you know, a lot of times when I receive these stories, you think, oh my God, this guy, he is innocent. And they framed him on this thing. Is that true? So I'm going to do a show right after this on that. I always find these cases very interesting. And let's see. I was going to the Ohio couple, the dentist and his wife. Here they are. Is that them? Yeah, that's them. So they got shot down in their house, and then nothing was taken. He was shot twice. She was shot once in the chest, and the guy came in, killed them, and then he didn't show up at work, and the people at this workplace had all these appointments in there. That was just not something he did. So they would start calling him, and he didn't answer his phone. They called the wife; she's not answering. They became concerned, called the police. They went well checked, nobody answered, and the friends went there, and they couldn't get in the house. And then eventually they saw the body of the male on the floor in blood. And then the police came. They heard children crying, and they came in, and there were 2 children there crying because the parents weren't paying any attention to them. And they found the couple dead, and don't know why. Now the story came out about this 911 call. It was a weird 911 call from their house a number of months back, like back in April. And a woman said she was crying. They're like, is something wrong? Do you need us to come? And she's like, no, it's just something happened between me and my man. And people are like, yeah, my man, okay. And it turns out, according to people who know the couple, relatives said no, that they had had a party and there was somebody there who flipped out over something and called 911. It was not the wife. In other words, it wasn't a proof of domestic abuse between the two. As far as we know, the police have said this is a double homicide. In other words, they didn't find a weapon there. That if the husband is shot twice and the wife is shot once, so theoretically she should be the one doing the shooting and then shoot herself. But then you'd have a gun next to her, and apparently that is not so. Nobody was there to clean up the scene and take away the weapon. So, as far as they know, it's a double homicide. Now, there's a lot of theories rolling around about what could have happened. Was it to do? She had an ex-husband. Was somebody having an affair, and then was she having an affair, and the guy was pissed off and came and killed off her husband or killed her too? Was it a stalker? Was it somebody from work who was jealous? So I was asked, I think it wasn't a home invasion. That's what I think. Since it wasn't a home invasion, most likely there's a personal connection of some sort. Because why would, I mean, is it possible somebody come off the street, just saying, is it possible that somebody just off the street could have knocked on their door and they opened it and they just killed both of them and walked away just for the fun of it? Sure, that can happen. Is it the most likely thing? No. So as a profiler, what would I say? I said, well, since there's no sign of home invasion, it looks like it's most likely somebody they had some interaction with who was some kind of angry at them, revenge thing. Don't know. And I can't go further than that. So that all these theories, somebody from work, some ex, some affair thing. As a profiler, I would never say that to the police department. Oh, she's having an affair. I don't know that. I have no evidence. Until there's evidence of anything happening, evidence of somebody at work which was acting squirrely and they may be fired recently. Something, I don't have that evidence in front of me. Maybe it's rolled through in the last day and I haven't seen it. But until I have evidence, I can't come up with motive. I can't even come up with a suspect. As a police department, the only thing I could tell them was it looks like this is likely somebody that they know who had some anger issue wanted to eliminate them because of some kind of rage. So you might want to look at their personal relationships, their relationships at work, anything that happened in the recent past where somebody was being stalked or being bothered. You'd want to look at all these things. That's all I could tell the police. That's what they're telling themselves, I'm sure, because they don't know either. So that's what they would say. Can't go any further than that at this point in time. There is a video of some guy slouching along in a hoodie that they say could be the guy. Could be somebody. It could not be the guy too. But there's not a very useful picture actually. So it looks really isn't very useful. So I'm just patiently. That's why I won't do videos on this. I have no idea. I have to wait patiently. Being a profiler is not being a psychic. I can't just go, oh, I know what happened. No, I don't, and I don't have evidence enough to support that many conclusions. So that's what happens in a lot of cases where people think a conclusion should have been reached really quickly. But if there's not evidence for a conclusion, all you can do is look at the different possibilities and then start interviewing. That's what the police do. They start interviewing everybody to find out what's going on in these people's lives. And then they have to go through all the motions of that. And sorry, there's no answers right away. What was done at the crime scene? What's needed to be done? I don't know. I don't know what they did to the crime scene. I have no idea. And I mean, one of the things you're going to look at is was there any sign of breaking and entering? If there isn't, then how did the person get in the house? Was it somebody they invited over? Was it somebody who knocked on the door? How were they shot? And some people say, well, why didn't they kill the kids? And there's a whole, depending on when they were shot, exactly the time frame. You kill children because either you want to wipe the whole family out, and that's your extra, I got you and your kiddies too, or you kill them because they're witnesses. And the witness thing, it depends. So the person could have come and killed them and not even known there were children in the house if they were asleep and didn't know much about them. Theoretically, they could not know they had children. Or they could have known they had children, but since the kids were asleep in the children's bedroom, they had no reason to kill the children because the children weren't bothering them. And even if the children were witnesses, so it depends on, depending on age of children, whether they think they can identify them. A lot of times when you see kids killed, it's because the kids can identify. They're old enough to be able to either say, it was Uncle Mikey, which you don't want happening if you're Uncle Mikey, or they can at least do a good description. And that might not be a good thing for the person. Now, if the person feels like the kids are too small to give a good description, don't know, and they're not somebody they know, they're like, might just leave the kids alone. So those are all the things the police are going to look at. They're going to look at the ballistics, of course, and find out what kind of gun it was. They're obviously going to look for fingerprints and stuff like that. But they're going to look at every camera. They've got that one video, which I said I'm not sure if that's absolutely proven to be the guy who's just in the area at the time it happened. but they'll look at as many videos as they can. If they get, one of the advantages we have with the Ring cameras and all the cameras and all kinds of businesses is that if you can track the guy, and sometimes you can actually track a person. They're walking down the street, you got them on this camera, but then they reappear on another camera, and then they reappear in a parking lot, and they get in a car, and you can get the license plate off the car. You're in good shape. So all this kind of stuff is going on behind the scenes that we just, they're hopefully doing what they're supposed to be doing. Why? No. So what? Obviously, not someone close to the family. Why not? I mean, I don't understand where that conclusion comes from. It could be somebody close to the family. Why not? I mean, it could be a relative, for all we know. A 4 and 1. Okay, so a 4-year-old might be able to. You're saying how old are the kids, and it's 4 and 1. The 4-year-old might be able to identify. Obviously, the 1-year-old cannot. No forced entry. Husband shot more times than wife. I think personal. Okay, the issue about being shot more times than the wife. Is he the target or is she the target? You can make up stories again. This is one of the things I try to really push against in profiling is I've seen too many profilers make up stories. You can create a scenario that you have no idea is true. You shoot somebody. Let's say a husband gets shot twice, she only gets shot once. So as a person mad at the husband and wanted to do the husband in, and then she was collateral damage. So bang, bang, I want to get rid of you. And then, okay, I got to get rid of you too. Boom. Or did they take the husband out because they wanted to have that last minute alone with the wife? So they took him out, and then they went to the wife and said, pointed the gun at her and said, "This is what you deserve." Boom. Could be that. It could be that why was the husband shot twice? Well, maybe because he didn't drop down. I mean, I don't know where he was when he got shot. There was blood next to the bed, so I'm not sure if I read where they got shot at, where they were in bed or standing up or what. But sometimes sometimes the bigger person, the more aggressive person, you shoot more because you want to make sure that they aren't a threat anymore. How they got in the house, that's a good question. So all I heard so far was that there was a body next to the bed. And so if that's true, then how did the guy get in the house? And there's a lot of ways people get in a house. So again, I can't speculate on that. For example, it's possible somebody knocked and maybe the wife went down, opened the door, and he shot her and then went up and shot the husband twice. Went up to the bedroom and shot him if he knew he was there. Or let's say a handyman comes over and he does some work in the house and he goes in the bathroom, says, "May I use your bathroom?" Goes in the bathroom and he unlocks the bathroom window. Then he comes back later and just pulls the window up and kills people and then relocks the window and walks out. So there's all these possibilities. And until I have enough proof of everything, where everybody was and all this kind of stuff, it's hard to go further. You can make up a whole story, but it's not based on evidence. And one of the things I've always said is that if I were working with the police department and I'm going to put a profile out, it has to have enough evidence for me to say, the reason I would say this is because of that. The reason I say this is because of that. And so I'd have to have more information. And then maybe I will talk more about this case when more information comes in. That, I thought it was unclear whether they got shot, but I do remember that the friend looking in a window saw, I thought he said a bed and he was lying in a pool of blood next to a bed. But all the endless possibilities are out of lead. And they have to narrow those possibilities down. So the more evidence they have, the more they can narrow things down and try to figure out what happened and what makes the most sense. And all of that. You're completely off topic. You like to look at my camera. It's the same camera. It's not the light in Hawaii. I'm in a room where I have no sunlight coming in. And I've got some kind of lamp up here, and I don't have a big heavy lamp there. I just, it might be softer. Maybe it's a better version than what I have at home. So, I struggle with the lighting, no matter, it changes also depending on the background and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Hopefully the the police will get more information. We hope. And sometimes, oh, they didn't take shell casings. That's interesting. So yeah, until I know from the police what exactly happened at that crime scene, I can't really also speculate too much because I don't trust a lot of reports that come out in the media and somebody saying, "Oh, this is what I heard," whatever. But okay, this question: are those people kill money over drugs, psychopaths or sociopaths? First of all, psychopaths and sociopaths. There's no difference. It's just a bunch of potato crap. It all depends. I mean, you're still killing people. If you're killing people over drug money, first of all, you're involved in a legal business. You're selling poison to people that can kill them. So you already got a level of psychopathy right there. And then you kill people over money over that. Probably you lean towards psychopathy. Yes, you do. So yeah. And I'll mention this case just because when you talk about motives, sometimes it's really hard to know what the heck the motive is. This one, where'd this one go? This happened in my neck of the woods, Prince George's County. Mother terrified after son targeted during deadly Prince George's County shooting spree. Prince George's mother said she's still too frightened to step outside days after her stepson was shot during what police describe as a deadly, hours-long rampage in the Kettering area of Maryland. Her son walked outside of the home. The violence started just after 8 p.m. on January 4th. Her stepson walked out of their home. He just had been helping her, and she heard a bunch of gunshots. Boom, boom, boom. She looked outside and saw his car stopped in the street with the door open. She called out to him, and he said, Mom, call 911. Somebody shoot me. And he said, put me inside. I'm cold. She said another son shouted that a gunman was still nearby, and she quickly shut the door. Police later told her, now, the first thing you think about when this kind of thing happens in Prince George's County, Maryland, somebody gets shot like that, you go, they were involved in drugs, some kind of drug deal crap going. As you were talking about, somebody's pissed off. They didn't get my money or whatever, so I shot. However, police later told her that her stepson was the second victim shot that day. Police believe 26-year-old DeMonte Williams is the gunman. According to charging documents, the violence began Sunday morning with the killing of a 65-year-old man who had been sleeping in his car behind a shopping center. So he killed him. Williams then returned to Darlennon Street that evening, where 2 more people were shot and a 4th person was targeted before officers arrested him. Williams, a convicted armed robber, according to sources, and a documented history of mental illness, is charged with first-degree murder and multiple counts of attempted murder. He's being held without bond. He decided to go shoot some people over hours. Oh, well, I shot this guy. Well, guess I'll go shoot somebody else. What's the motive? I guess he's having fun shooting people. It's like a spree. It's a spree murders. It's not a mass murder because it doesn't all happen at once. It's not a serial homicide where there's a lot of downtime in between and you're picking your victims for, purposes of having fun. But you're just shooting them along the way. It's kind of a spree thing. I don't know. We don't know what the motive was on that. So a lot of times when you're looking at motive, it takes a while to look at their background, look at the evidence at any crime scene to try to determine those kind of things. Because theoretically, this Ohio couple could have been this kind of guy. Could have just simply went and said, well, I'm going to shoot some people. I went in and shot some people. That could be true. Is it more likely that it was somebody they're connected to that had it out for them? More likely, but not. You also have to make sure when you don't want to get tunnel vision. So let's say you're like, okay, 80% that they knew the guy. Maybe we're going to leave open the fact that maybe it's just some whack job running around the neighborhood. Just because you don't want to completely close that door until you have proof that says, okay, that's definitely over here. And not over here. So you don't want to make that mistake. Well, you shouldn't have even had access to a gun with this history. Uh, Washington, D.C. is one of the strictest gun law places in the country, and the amount of illegal guns rolling around Washington, D.C. and Prince George's County is just massive, massive. So it's one of the problems we have with gun laws, and it's the concept that if there's no guns, if the guns are can't have a gun, that you don't have a gun. It's not necessarily true, especially if for years, essentially, it's just too much access, and we do have border countries where guns and weapons just can be brought in, just like drugs can be brought in, as long as there's people who want them. It's there's going to be somebody who gets them. Unfortunately, it's a very sad thing. And now you can actually make them. I mean, you can get like a 3D printer and make your own gun. It's pretty terrible. You talk about the UK had somebody going on a rampage. Yeah, every once in a while you get this rampage thing, and sometimes it starts with something like that. The famous Canadian case. I think he killed his wife or his mother first or something. But sometimes one of the reasons you have spree killings is they kill somebody that's close to them, like the wife. And then they're like, I'm screwed. And they're already psychopathic. So they're like, I'm screwed. I'm gonna go on the run. They go on the run and they need a new car, so they just kill somebody to get their car. Then they jump in the car and then they just keep killing along the way for money or for cars, or because they need a place to stay. They just shoot the homeowners and then stay in their house and eat their food. Because once you kill one person, it doesn't matter how many more you kill, right? Kind of works like that. It's kind of sad and scary. Let's see. Okay, let's what else I want to talk about here. Ivan. I'll talk about Ivan. Mary Ivan. Okay, this guy, Ivan Milat. He's known as the backpacker murderer. And I got to admit, he did a really smart thing. He picked backpackers, and this all occurred in Australia. He's an Australian serial killer, and he chose backpackers as his number one target. And the reason that's really smart, it's a little bit similar to hitchhikers, is when somebody goes backpacking, people don't expect to hear from them for a while, especially if they're going through wilderness and all that kind of stuff. They got their backpacks on, off they go. And then they just vanish. And then by the time people realize they're not around, it's like, what happened? Why can't we get hold of Bobby? What happened to Jenny? Oh, well, they were backpacking. Where did they go? Days have gone by, maybe even a couple of weeks has gone by, and therefore the killer can also move around, and so where they disappeared, it can get very confusing, and and all that time downtime really is. So they make great targets. Anyway, so Milat, I think you say his name is Milat, at least the way I would say it. He's commonly referred to in the media as a backpacker murderer. Is an Australian serial killer who abducted, assaulted, robbed, and murdered 2 men and 5 women in New South Wales between 1989 and 1992. He would approach backpackers along Hume Highway under the guise of providing them transport to areas of southern New South Wales. And so they were hitchhiking. So the backpackers and hitchhikers. And then he'd take his victims into the Belongo State Forest, where he would incapacitate them and murder them. He's also suspected of committing many other similar offenses around Australia. Now, this is where I find it gets interesting and frustrating. And this happens over and over again. So anyway, he has a crappy childhood. Siblings recall him displaying antisocial and psychopathic behavior at a young age. Remember I say it always starts young. Such as attacking animals with machetes. That is concerning. It's like, little brother with his machete. He attacked animals with machetes and had this psychopathic behavior. So they put him in a residential school at age 13. So they did recognize him as having real issues. And then at 17, he was in juvenile detention center for theft. At age 19, he was involved in a shop break-in. In 1964, he was sentenced to 18 months for breaking and entering. And a month after release, he was arrested for driving a stolen car and sentenced to 2 years hard labor. At 1967, at age 22, he's sentenced to 3 years imprisonment for theft. So he's a repeat offender. And he's also one of these that is not sneaky. He just does stuff and gets caught right away. for the most part, except for the backpackers. Now, this is where I get annoyed. Because you already got a guy who's in the system over and over and over again, who has already been proven since a young age to have psychopathic behavior and violent behavior and criminal behavior. Put those three things together: psychopathic, violent, and criminal. This is a guy you want off the streets. And any opportunity you have to keep him off the streets, you want to keep him off the streets. You can't fix him, so you just want him away from the public. Now, if he commits a crime that you can't give him much time for, like you can only give him a year or two, then that's all you can do. But if the crime is bigger, this is your opportunity to get him and put him away for a really long time. But that's not what happened. So in April 71, he abducted two 18-year-old female hitchhikers near a Liverpool railway station with a knife. He raped one of the hitchhikers before they stopped at a petrol station cafe, where they managed to escape. He was arrested later that day and charged with 1 count of rape and 2 counts of armed robbery. While awaiting trial, he was involved in a string of robberies, so I guess he got bail. I don't know how it works in Australia, but this is a rapist. He abducted and he raped these women. He already had a history of all kinds of criminal acts. And he should never have been out of jail. He should have been awaiting trial while in jail. But somehow they let him out. And he committed a string of robberies with some of his brothers. Great family. Before faking his suicide by leaving his shoes at The Gap, a well-known Sydney suicide site. Not the store, obviously, I don't think. So they let him out after he raped the girls, abducted and raped. That he should have been in jail. He should have gotten convicted. He should have gotten life in prison. But instead, he ran off. He fled to Queensland and Victoria before flying to New Zealand, where he lived for 2 years. He's suspected of sneaking back using a fake passport and lived interstate to avoid detection. He got smarter, got older, got smarter. He was rearrested in 1974 after his mother was taken to hospital suffering from a heart attack. But the robbery and kidnap cases against him failed at the trial with the help of their family lawyer. What? So anyway, Milat took on a job as a truck driver, and now we've got a problem of him being on the road again. And by the time of his arrest, he had worked on and off roads and traffic for the Roads and Traffic Authority. So we have a guy who's known to kidnap people, and he gets this kind of job. Okay. In 1977, he unsuccessfully attempted to rape and murder 2 women who were hitchhiking from Liverpool to Canberra, but he was never charged. So we have 2 more women he's kidnapping, and he's not charged. What? So there were 2 times now where they had a chance to put this guy away, and they didn't do it. Then the backpackers started disappearing. There's a whole bunch of them. Disappeared. So we have, and he didn't have a problem doing taking couples. He had, let's see, one couple, a young Victorian couple from Frankston, both 19. Then a woman from Germany went missing, and another German couple went missing. British backpackers went missing. So a whole bunch of them. They finally started finding the corpses of these backpackers, and he was pretty brutal. He stabbed them, he shot them. He just kind of is an everything guy. And then how did he finally get? And he brutalized them. It was just he was a vicious, brutal person. And let's see, they started looking for him. Let's see what happened here. They developed a profile of the killer. Police traced an enormous volume of data from numerous sources. And then they used link analysis technology, and they narrowed the list of 230. It's so sad that you have a list of 230 people you think could have committed these kind of murders. But they got that down to 32. And then they thought maybe there were more than one serial killer, which is possible. Could have been possible. Or that there were 2 guys working together. But given that they were thinking because most of the victims are attacked by pairs and in different ways. Some were stabbed, some were shot. So they're thinking maybe two guys. And then let's see. How did he get caught? A guy named Paul Onions from the UK was backpacking in Australia, hitchhiking from Liverpool station until Madura, and he accepted a ride from a man only known as Bill. Bill pulled out a revolver and some rope to rob Onions, at which point he managed to flee while Bill shot at him. He flagged down a passing motorist, Joanne Berry of Canberra, and together they described the assailant and his vehicle and registration number to the police. Wow, this guy was good. Both of them were good. They found, and so anyway, they were able to find the guy at that point, and they connected everything, and they eventually arrested him, and he was convicted. Let's see, finally got convicted. Let's see, given a life sentence on each count without the possibility of parole, at least that. But they botched 2 different times when he should have been never. The first case when he grabbed those girls, they should never have been let out of jail on bail or whatever happened there. Unbelievable, considering it was a violent crime, a kidnapping and a rape. So we're not talking about he shoplifted from a store. So it's like, what? What? Yeah, that's pretty sad. And therefore, all those other people were brutally murdered because they didn't. The system didn't do the job. And what's sad too is there's not very good system, a way of keeping track of a lot of people who clearly are a danger, who exhibit. There's some psychopaths who have no criminal records at all, and they just pop out of the woodwork, and you can't keep track of them. But I have actually, I recommended this, and it hasn't ever happened, but I recommended it. I said, every time you have a serial homicide, you ought to log all the people you interviewed and put them into a system, not as suspects, but as people that you were interviewed who were in the radius of this crime. That maybe they were a security guard at the place the person worked, or maybe maybe they rented in the same apartment, maybe they were seen in the area, and were walking on a trail that the person was killed on, and you interviewed them. Their names there. Put them in a system, even if you can't prove who did that crime. If a year or 2 later there's another sexual homicide, and you start interviewing people, and you turn out that one of the people you're interviewing over here was also interviewed over here, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that person should become a suspect. But if you never have that information logged anyplace, you could keep interviewing this guy in I don't know how many cases, and his name's just never in the system. So you just don't even know he exists. And every time you interview him, he sits there going, thinking, they interviewed me in another case, but you don't know about that. And so that person, they get interviewed by the detective, and you walk out. The detective has no clue that you were interviewed elsewhere. And my best example of this whole thing is, and I always forget the case, but wonderful detective in California had a guy who killed women, and what he did was he chopped up their clothing in weird ways, not just to cut it off their bodies, but just for the fun of it. And he fought with his department to put that information out. He said, I want to find out who does this weird stuff. And they're like, we need to keep it secret because when we interview the person, and they mentioned they like doing that, then we'll know he's the guy. He said, look, we're never going to find this guy if we don't give some information out. So they gave the information out, and he got a call from another department in California, like Northern California. He was like Southern, they were Northern. And they said, detective called up and said, look, I don't know if this will mean anything to you, if it's going to be connected, but 20 years ago, I arrested this kid who did this at a crime scene. It wasn't a murder, but he chopped up this woman's clothing. And so this was his name. And it turned out that the detective on the case had just interviewed that guy. So if my system were in place and he interviews this guy and puts his name in the system, it would pop up 20 years ago, we interviewed this kid, But if there's no system for who you interview in cases, you can't get those connections. Now, in that case, it was incredibly fortunate that this detective went public with the information so that the other detective remembered that. Otherwise, that guy would not. And so they were able to arrest the guy, and otherwise he would be free. And he was a pretty prolific serial killer. So, yeah. Um, um, let's see. And log also domestic abuse incidents. A female investigator did this in the UK and tracked a killer by DNA because he was an assistant for abusing his partner. Interesting. I mean, we have technology today, which theoretically, if you look, you're dealing with AI, Grok, or whatever, the ability in very short period of time to just, seconds, to access all this information. So if this information were out there, even if it would be overwhelming for a human being to be able to, find these different connections, an AI would be able to do that. So you could say, I interviewed this guy, and it could be that everybody was logging in those things all over the country, that it would just go boom, 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 Now, there's a lot of people who object to people who are not convicted of a crime having their names float around in a system. They find that an invasion of privacy, that just because you were interviewed, now your name is in the system. So the fight is going to be over that more than anything else. So yeah, it's so overwhelming. And the problem too with people never realize that the majority of paperwork in a system on a case, 95% of it's just nonsense. I mean, it's stuff. It's just stuff that's not going to solve a case. It's just paperwork, and so that's all. It's like, oh, there's just boxes and boxes of that crap. The real important stuff is usually much smaller, but somebody's got a lot of the stuff in. The FBI had a thing called she's not forgotten. I haven't talked about this in so many years. No, I can't believe I've forgotten the name of that. I used to talk about it all the time. Not POTUS. That's the DNA thing. Geez, I've forgotten. Wow. I really haven't. I think it's not been successful, and I can tell you why in a minute here. Just blanked here. VICAP, violent. What's the actual term? It's VICAP. A violent criminal apprehension program, VICAP. VICAP was started, and what they did was they wanted the detective on a case. Let's say a woman was raped and murdered and left on a hiking trail, and they would put in her age, how she was murdered, knife, shot, strangled, anything weird about the crime, like if there was any, if a souvenir was taken, or if they carved an S into her chest, or whatever. If she was tied up, she wasn't tied up. You're supposed to put all this information in. And then it goes to the system so that if you get similarities in crimes, it could link them together. The problem came down to a number of things. First of all, most crimes look very similar. A lot of serial killer crimes just look similar. So there were just too many of them just matching. And then there are those serial killer crimes which the same guy commits, but he uses different techniques. One time he stabs, one time he hits somebody over the head with a rock, and they don't even match. Sometimes they're clothed, half clothed, So what happened is, first of all, too much information. And secondly, that somebody has to put all that freaking information in. Somebody's got to sit there, and they're already overwhelmed with the job of trying to find the serial killer and do all this stuff. And now they got to go and log all this stuff into the VICAP thing. A lot of detectives don't even get around to it. So VICAP, I don't think has had any success. It's an interesting idea, but I just think it's been kind of fairly useless. Yeah. So that's kind of what happened with that. See what time I got here. So what else? Anything else I want to talk about here? Look at my pictures. Hold on a second. I'm trying to. Oh, it's just about, it's been about 2 hours. I was like, I've got times and my times are all messed up because this is a show when I put it together between the Hawaiian time and the Maryland time, the computers got confused and they ended up being the wrong time on YouTube. So it was problematic. So I'm just going to say one more thing. Let's see, just this one's just a fun one, which I haven't gotten around to talking about. So, and this will be my last one for today. This is let's see where to go. So this is there's a woman did this. The woman who's dragging the other woman did her hair, and let's see if I can find the story on it. Where is it? Oh, now I can't find it. Nah, come on now. Now I lost it. Darn it. She got, oh, where did it go? Hold on a sec. Let me see if I can locate it. And it happened in my county, Prince George's County. Hairdresser drags hair, I think she was convicted. Let's see. Okay. Her name was Jayla Cunningham, and she was convicted of second-degree assault for physically assaulting a 15-year-old client over a payment dispute. And it became a viral video because she was dragging the teenager out and cutting out her hair weave. So what happened was this 15-year-old, now you got to look at the cost of these things too. So this woman had a salon, and this 15-year-old shows up. And I don't know if she knows she's 15 or not, but anyway, she does 4 hours of hair service. And when you're doing these hair weaves and everything, you're putting in these hair pieces and stuff, it's a lot of work. Now, it's kind of sad in a way because once upon a time, this kind of used to be a thing you do on your doorstep. Like your friends would do it, your family members would do it. My sister-in-law was really good at doing other braiding kind of things. So every once in a while, when my daughter was over, she would do things, to her hair. And you just sit there for like a couple hours and you just work on, do that kind of stuff. But now it costs you a fortune. So you have to go to the salon. It takes 4 hours of long work, and it costs in this case it was $150. And the client's family claims the payment was accidentally sent to the wrong account via Cash App, while Cunningham alleges the teen was trying to leave without paying. And here we have a problem with how many times has she been ripped off by teenagers? And my guess is more than once, and she's fed up with it, right? The video posted online showed her yelling at the client, dragging her by her hoodie and her hair, according to the victim's mother, and using scissors to remove the installed weave. So anyway, the victim's mother filed a police report leading to a second-degree assault charge, and they also are pursuing a civil lawsuit. And Cunningham was convicted of second-degree assault, carries a maximum penalty of 10 years in prison. Wow. I think that would be a little excessive for this. And it's going to, in 2022, January 22nd, we'll find out how much time she's going to get. But should she have dragged her around by her hair? No. Do I sort of understand it? Yeah. First of all, I want to say this. No 15-year-old should be getting $150 worth of hair. Parents. Where did she get the $150 from? How rich are you? Are you rich, or is she getting her money some other way? I don't know. But there's no way my 15-year-old is getting $150 hair treatment. Sorry. And this is what we saw recently with a kid at our local high school who got robbed of his jacket, which was like this $500 jacket. Your kid does not need to wear a jacket like that to school. And when I talk about lightning striking, are you doing something to put yourself in this situation, pissing people off or setting yourself up for robbery? Yeah, because no kid should be, in my opinion, should just go to school in a damn uniform and skip all this clothing crap. And should be, that stuff shouldn't even be happening there. But then you say, but you get these kids for whatever reason, the parents are giving them, or some of the kids are have alternate means of getting money, and they are wearing very expensive stuff, carrying a lot of money around, and trouble ensues, And in this particular case, this girl, 15 years old, getting $150 worth of hair weave. I mean, that's ridiculous, in my opinion. So I think she could do a hairstyle that'll cost her 10, 20 at the most, but $150 is ludicrous. But that's very, very popular, super popular, and parents are putting their money into this. And teens are getting a lot of money spent on them that they're not earning the money, or if they're earning the money, it may not be the correct way. But anyway, we'll see what happens to the hairdresser who. And did the girl try to rip her off? I don't know, but maybe you want to ask for the money before you start. With these kids, you want to ask for the money up front and say, "I'm sorry, I can't take a chance. Otherwise, I have to drag you out and cut your hair off." Oh my God. Let's see. Wait a minute. Forgot to move this thing down here. Oh, bye, Lady Jane. Thank you. I'm glad you came tonight. Or let's see, good night, everyone. Oh, is it? Yeah, it is night for some of you guys. For me, it's now 12 o'clock. It's noon for me, so I might go to the beach. I'll go play pickleball. Do something. But I'm going to do my other shows first, and I'll put those up, and then I'll go play. So, yeah. You must have come in late. Yeah, this is my home screen. I took a picture of my Maryland house, so no, I'm not at home. I'm in Hawaii, so I have I could put a Hawaii back screen on. I could, but I wanted. This is my traditional one for my Hangouts, so I'm just sticking with it. So, yeah, yeah. I like the uniform thing. I really do. I prefer that. Oh, thank you, Lisa S. Thank you. I am enjoying Hawaii. So it's 5 p.m. Eastern now. Yeah, it's so weird the time frame. And sometimes I say, "Oh, I want to speak to my sister," and I forget because she's on the East Coast. So I want to give her a ring at like 9 o'clock at night. I get in my bed and I usually give her a ring before she goes to bed. And now I'm like, but it's 2 o'clock in the morning there, so I have to remember to call her early. It really screws up my head, as far as the time thing goes. It's very, very difficult. So anyway, but I am having a good time here. It's my first week in Hawaii, and it's all gone well. So, I'm satisfied, and I will be enjoying no cold for this winter. So anyway, thank you for being here. I'll put those two the videos up. So if you want to do your profile of Pat on how not to freak out when you travel, and the one on this guy who the Reiners thought was innocent and just became his little best friend. And now he's sad because he doesn't have their support anymore. Yeah, and then I'll be doing the show this weekend on Sunday as usual. So I will, and at a time when the UK can come. So anyway, thank you guys for being here. Always a pleasure. And I will, again, if you're new to the channel, like and subscribe and join Patreon if you want to be in the chat room. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.